On a family vacation, my in-laws insisted that I sit at a separate table. No one spoke to me. They excluded me from all meals and activities. When I asked my husband, he simply did nothing and said, "It's their way." I smiled and replied, "Perfect. I have my way too." The next morning, I decided to act. Looking back, the signs were always there. The little comments, the disdainful looks, the way I was always treated as an afterthought in my own marriage. But I ignored it all because I loved my husband, Mark. I thought that if I kept trying, if I was patient, things would change. They didn't. Instead, I found myself on a family vacation that was supposed to be fun and relaxing in Hilton Head, South Carolina, but turned into something I'll never forget. When we arrived at the resort, I was excited. It was a beautiful place, the kind you see in travel magazines. White sand, palm trees, the sound of waves in the background. I really thought that maybe this trip would be different, that Richard and Susan, my in-laws, would finally warm up to me, that we would sit together, laugh, and connect as a family. I was wrong. On the first night, we went to a fancy restaurant for dinner. The waiter led us to a long table, perfectly set up for our group. Just as I was about to sit next to Mark, Richard said, "Oh, there must be a mistake. She'll need a separate table." I blinked, thinking I had misheard. "Excuse me?" I asked. Susan didn't even look up from the menu. That's just how we do things. I looked at Mark, expecting him to say something, to say that this was ridiculous, that I was his wife, not a stranger. Instead, he just sighed and said, "That's just how they are." So, I sat alone at a separate table. I should have left right then, but I didn't. I stayed, thinking maybe it was just a weird tradition, something that would only happen once, but it wasn't. The next morning, I woke up early, ready to go to breakfast with the family. I went down to the hotel restaurant expecting to see them waiting for me. They weren't there. I texted Mark. Nothing. I spent almost half an hour looking for them until I finally found them, already seated at a large table, in the middle of their meal, laughing and talking like nothing was wrong, like I wasn't even there. I asked, "Why didn't you tell me you were coming?" Richard barely looked at me. "We thought you'd figure it out." Susan took a sip of coffee. "That's just how we do things." I looked at Mark. He was already eating, acting like this was completely normal. That's when I realized I wasn't part of their family. I never had been. And Mark? He wasn't on my side. The rest of the trip followed the same pattern. At every meal, I sat alone. At every group activity, they forgot to tell me. They went on a private boat tour. I only found out when I saw the pictures on Instagram. They went to a fancy wine tasting. I only realized when I saw them in the lobby, all dressed up and heading out. I asked Mark later, "You could have told me." He just sighed, like I was the difficult one. That's just how they are. That was the only answer he gave me. On the fourth day, I gave up. I stopped trying. I stopped asking. They wanted me to be invisible? Fine. But they had no idea what was coming, because I had my own way too. That night, while they were out drinking and celebrating their perfect family vacation, I went back to the hotel room and started taking action. I wasn't just sitting at a separate table anymore. I was about to remove myself completely, and they were going to feel it. I opened my email, pulled up the reservation confirmations, and started canceling everything. Because guess what? I had booked it all. The hotel, in my name. The rental car, on my credit card. The dinner reservations, on my account. The spa day at the resort that Susan had been looking forward to for weeks. Oh yeah, I booked that too. I canceled it all. One by one, I erased their plans. Their rooms, canceled. The rental car, gone. The fancy dinner at the seaside restaurant, not happening. I even called the spa and politely informed them that Susan wouldn't be attending. Then I packed my bags, took the rental car, and left. While they were toasting to their perfect vacation, I was already on the road, heading to Charleston. I booked a luxury suite, ordered room service, and sat on the balcony, watching the ocean, finally at peace. Meanwhile, back in Hilton Head, panic was about to set in. The next morning, I woke up in Charleston feeling refreshed for the first time in days. The ocean breeze drifted into the hotel room as I sipped my coffee, lounging on a cozy chair, watching the waves. Then, My phone started buzzing. It was Mark. I let it ring. Then Susan. Then Mark again. Then Richard. I put my phone on silent and smiled. They had finally noticed. I imagined the exact moment it hit them. Richard, groggy and grumbling, getting out of bed, only to be greeted by a hotel manager at the door. "Sir, there seems to be an issue with your reservation." Susan, reaching for her phone, ready to check the day's itinerary, only to find a series of cancellation emails. Mark, rubbing his temples, confused, still half asleep, hearing his mother's voice go from mild irritation to full-on screaming. They had no rooms, no car, no plans. I smiled as I sipped my coffee. A few hours later, when I finally got tired of the silence, I checked my messages. Mark, where are you? Logically, Mark, what the hell is going on? Zrania, Mark, you need to fix this, now. I decided to answer his next call just for fun. Where are you? He demanded as soon as I picked up. Charleston, I said. A pause. Charleston? What the hell are you doing there? Enjoying my vacation? I replied. Silence. I could hear voices in the background. Susan was yelling at the hotel staff. Richard was muttering curses. Did you cancel everything? Mark finally asked, his voice quieter now, like he still couldn't believe it. Yes, I said. He took a deep breath. Do you have any idea what you've done? My parents have nowhere to stay. We had plans. Silence. You left me stranded, I said, with fake concern in my voice. That must be so uncomfortable. Mark was silent again, probably realizing I had used his own words against him. I continued. You all wanted me to be separate, so I gave you what you wanted. This is insane, he replied, angry. You need to come back. I laughed. No, Mark, I really don't. And I hung up. Later, I found out how bad things got for them. With the hotel fully booked, they had to scramble to find another place to stay. They ended up at a cheap motel by the highway, 20 minutes from the resort. The kind of place with flickering lights and a weird smell in the air. With no rental car, they had to use Uber for everything. But Hilton Head isn't exactly full of rideshare drivers. They were hit with sky-high prices. And the fancy dinner Richard had been bragging about for weeks? Completely booked now. They had to eat at a tourist trap, surrounded by screaming kids and bad seafood. Susan had a meltdown at the spa when she found out her reservation had been canceled. She demanded they squeeze her in somehow. They didn't. I got all of this from the furious messages Mark sent me afterward. Mark, you really left us like this? Zrania, Mark. Mama Yarina. She was humiliated at the spa. Zrania, Mark. Dad is freaking out about the restaurant. Zrania, Mark. I hope you're happy. I was. I thought that would be the worst of it for them. A minor inconvenience, a taste of their own medicine. But then, something really interesting happened. A few hours later, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Mark. It was a message from Sarah, Mark's cousin. Sarah. Hey, just wanted to say I heard what happened. And honestly, good for you. I frowned, rereading the message. Sarah and I had always gotten along, but she wasn't exactly my confidant. Me. Wait, what do you mean? Her response made my stomach churn. Sarah. They did the same thing to Mark's ex-wife. I sat up straight. Mark's ex-wife? He had always told me that his first marriage ended because they grew apart. Nothing dramatic, just differences they couldn't resolve. I had never questioned it. But now? Me. What do you mean? Sarah continued. She went on a family trip with them. They treated her like garbage the whole time, made her sit at a separate table, ignored her, acted like she wasn't there. She left in the middle of the trip and filed for divorce a month later. My heart raced. Sarah, I didn't say anything before because I thought you knew. But seeing what they did to you, I realized he never told you, did he? No, he hadn't. Because if he had, I would have never gone on this trip. If he had, I would have known that this wasn't just how they were. It was a pattern. And Mark? He knew exactly what was happening, and he let it happen anyway. That night, Mark called again. This time, I answered. I need you to fix this, he said immediately, his voice low, tense with frustration. No, you don't understand. My parents. I understand perfectly, I interrupted. This wasn't about traditions. It was about control. You knew they were going to do this to me, and you let it happen." Silence. Then he asked, "Who told you that?" "Bingo." I laughed. "So it's true. I wasn't the first." More silence. Then Mark sighed. "Look, my parents can be a little difficult, but they mean well. Mark, they don't even see me as part of the family." He hesitated, and I knew, in that exact moment, he wasn't going to fight for me. He never had. "Come back," he said. "Let's fix this." I looked out at the ocean, at the waves gently breaking on the shore. "No," I said again, my voice firm. "I think I already fixed it." And I hung up. After I hung up, I stared at my phone, my mind racing. Mark knew. He had seen this before. And yet, he let me walk right into this trap. I wasn't just furious. I was ready to end it all. I grabbed another drink, leaned back in the chair, and tried to enjoy the rest of the night. But something was bothering me. If he had lied about the ex-wife, what else had he lied about? I decided to investigate. I opened Facebook and searched for her name, Rachel, Mark's ex-wife. I had never thought to look her up before, but now I needed answers. Her profile was private, but I scrolled through mutual friends, looking for someone who might be willing to talk. Then, I saw her sister's profile, Lauren, and she had public posts. I clicked on one from 2 years ago, right after Rachel and Mark split. "Never let a man's family destroy you. Never let them convince you that you're less than you are. My sister deserved better. We all tried to warn her. Never again." My stomach turned. I scrolled further and found an old comment from Sarah, Mark's cousin, the same one who had messaged me. "I wish she had listened to us. At least she's free now." Listened to them? I sat there, my heart racing. I didn't know what to do. I could message Lauren. I could ask what really happened. But was I ready to hear it? I stared at the screen for a long time. Then finally, I took a deep breath and typed, "Me. Hey, this is going to seem really random, but I think we need to talk." She responded in minutes. Lauren didn't waste time. "Lauren, I was wondering when you'd reach out." That single message hit me like a punch to the gut. "Me. So you know who I am?" Lauren, "Yes. We were waiting for this to happen." I stared at the screen, my fingers frozen over the keyboard. "We?" "Me. What do you mean?" Lauren, "Rachel wasn't the first, you know? And she definitely wasn't the last." My breath caught. "Me. What are you saying?" Lauren, "I'm saying that Mark has done this before. More than once. His parents have done this before. More than once. And if you're talking to me now, I'm guessing you just went through it too." I felt sick. This wasn't just an isolated pattern. It was a game to them. A sick tradition they played with every woman Mark brought into his life. They never saw his partners as real family, just as obstacles. And Mark? He let it happen every time. "Me. Why didn't anyone tell me?" Lauren, "We tried. But Mark always isolates his girlfriends. He says his family just has ways or traditions. He makes sure they don't ask too many questions. Did he ever tell you Rachel was the problem?" I closed my eyes. He had. He had painted Rachel as difficult, as someone who never understood his family, who always created drama over small things. But now I knew the truth. Rachel hadn't been dramatic. She had been cornered. And now I had been too. Or at least, I had been. Until now. I didn't sleep that night. The realization that I had wasted years of my life with this man burned in my chest. But there was something else too. Something I couldn't quite put my finger on. Why had Mark called me so many times that day? Why was he so desperate? Then, at 6 a.m., I got my answer. A message popped up on my phone, from an unknown number. "Ma'am, this is Officer Daniels from the Hilton Head Police Department. We need to speak with you about a missing person report filed by your husband." I sat up so fast I almost dropped my phone. A missing person report? I quickly called back, my mind racing. As soon as the officer answered, I said, "I'm fine. I'm not missing." A pause. Then, he asked, "Ma'am, are you saying you left voluntarily?" "Yes. Obviously, I left voluntarily. My husband knows exactly where I am. He's been calling me nonstop." The officer sighed. Your husband reported that you left without explanation and haven't been answering his calls. He said he was concerned for your safety. I clenched my teeth so hard it hurt. This wasn't concern. It was control. Mark wasn't worried about me. He was trying to force me back. I took a deep breath. Officer, I'm perfectly fine. I'm in Charleston. I left Hilton Head by choice. I'm not missing, and I don't want my husband contacting me. A pause. Would you like to file a formal request for him to no longer contact you? I hesitated. Then, finally, I let out a breath. Yes, I would. And just like that, I put the first legal nail in the coffin of my marriage. Less than an hour later, my phone buzzed with a new message. This time, it was from Susan. Susan, I can't believe you humiliated us like this. I laughed out loud. I ignored it. Then, another message. Susan, did you make Mark involve the police? Do you have any idea how this looks? Oh, I made Mark involve the police. I rolled my eyes and took another sip of coffee. Then, the messages kept coming. Susan, this family only tried to welcome you. Susan, you're being incredibly selfish. Susan, you need to come back and fix this. And finally, Susan, if you don't come back, Mark is going to make things very difficult for you. I froze. That wasn't subtle at all. It was a threat. I leaned back in my chair, rereading the message over and over. I had thought this was just about control, just about the sick games his family played. But now I realized something much worse. They weren't just trying to humiliate me. They were trying to break me. And if I didn't do something fast, Mark was going to make sure they succeeded. I stared at Susan's message for a long time. If you don't come back, Mark is going to make things very difficult for you. It wasn't even a warning. It was a promise. I could feel it now, the shift. This wasn't just them being cold or indifferent. This was a battle, and I was supposed to surrender and lose. But I wouldn't. Not this time. I cracked my knuckles, took a deep breath, and sent a single message back. Me. Perfect. Let's make things difficult then. Then, I booked a conference room at a hotel in Charleston and invited everyone. Mark, his parents, and Sarah. Because if they wanted a war, I was going to bring it to their doorstep. The next morning, I was sitting in the conference room waiting. The long wooden table was set up with just water bottles in the thick silence of anticipation. I didn't wait long. The door swung open forcefully. Mark came in first, his jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might break. His parents followed, Susan's heels clicking loudly on the floor, Richard's face already red with anger. Sarah came in last, hesitant, arms crossed. She gave me a slight nod. I had no idea if she was there as a witness, a mediator, or just for the drama. I leaned back in my chair. Glad everyone could make it. Mark's voice was sharp. What the hell is this? I smiled, slow and deliberate. A conversation. You were so eager to talk. So let's talk. Richard laughed, arms crossed. You think this is funny? No, I said calmly. I think it's pathetic. I think you play sick games with the women in your family, and you finally picked the wrong one. Susan's eyes narrowed. You abandoned us. I laughed. Actually, I laughed. Oh, I abandoned you? That's rich, coming from people who spent an entire trip pretending I didn't exist. Mark let out a harsh breath, gripping the chair. You're exaggerating. That was the last straw. I slammed my hands on the table so hard that Susan flinched. I'm your wife. My voice echoed in the room, cold and sharp. Not a stranger, not some random outsider. I'm your wife, and you let them treat me like nothing. And you, I pointed at Mark, knew this wasn't the first time. You knew exactly what was happening, and you let it happen anyway. His face went pale. Susan cut in quickly, her voice shrill. We were just following tradition. Bullshit, I shot back. It's not tradition. It's control. It's a test. And you fail every woman who comes into this family. Mark shook his head. You're exaggerating. I grabbed my phone, opened Lauren's messages, and threw it on the table in front of him. Read it. He hesitated. Read it. Slowly, Mark picked up the phone and started scrolling. I watched his face tense with every word. Then, He threw the phone back like it had burned him. This proves nothing. Richard crossed his arms. You're digging up old stories. This has nothing to do with us. I turned to Susan. Really? Because last night you sent me a message threatening me. You told me that if I didn't come back, Mark was going to make things very difficult for me. Her mouth snapped shut. Sarah let out a low whistle. Wow. Mark turned to his mother, his eyes narrowing. You did what? Susan stiffened. I was trying to make her understand. Understand what? Mark's voice rose. That you've been playing this game for years? That you did the same thing to Rachel? Richard shifted uncomfortably. Susan glanced at him, but the damage was done. Mark's jaw moved. Jesus Christ. And just like that, I saw it. The crack. The small fracture in his carefully constructed loyalty to his parents. The moment he realized I wasn't wrong. I had never been wrong. Mark turned to me. For the first time, he actually looked unsure. I stared at him, waiting to see if he would finally say something that mattered. But then, he ran his hands through his hair and sighed. I can fix this. My stomach dropped. That was his first instinct? Not an apology? Not remorse? Just fixing appearances? I leaned back, letting out a slow breath. You really don't get it, do you? Silence. I stood up, adjusting my bag. I'm not coming back, Mark. That snapped him back to reality. Wait, what? I'm done. His eyes widened. You're serious? Sarah laughed. Dude, how do you still not get this? Susan's voice rose. This is ridiculous. You're throwing away your marriage over a misunderstanding. I shook my head. No, Susan. You threw it away. You and Richard and your sick way of treating people. Mark was just too weak to stop. Mark tried to grab my arm, but I stepped back. Wait, let's talk about this. I held up my hand. No, Mark. You talk. You make excuses. You let them control you. But me? I'm done listening. I grabbed my phone and headed for the door. Mark's voice was almost desperate now. Wait, where are you going? I turned, looking at him one last time. I'm leaving. Susan laughed. You can't just walk out on a marriage. I stared at her, my expression unreadable. Watch me. Then I walked out the door. It took 6 months to finalize the divorce. Mark tried everything, begged, blamed, even accused me of overreacting, but I never looked back. Sarah stayed in touch. She told me things imploded after I left. Apparently, Mark finally confronted his parents, and it wasn't pretty. Richard called him weak. Susan cried, saying I had brainwashed him. For the first time, Mark saw them for who they really were. It didn't change anything for me. I was already gone. I moved to Charleston permanently, found a new apartment, reconnected with old friends, and started rebuilding my life. One night, months later, I got a message from an unknown number. Mark, I see it now. I'm sorry. I stared at that message for a long time. Then, I deleted it, because for the first time in years, I was free.